I think what Michelle might have been trying to say, and I'm not putting words in her mouth, but kind of feels from the audience, what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. And the fact is, members of this board, you, Mrs. Skirby, fought up here for years to be able to have questions answered at the podium. You fought for the giant time clock. You fought for the time clock to stop. But when people from your own supporting group, like myself, started to ask the hard questions, instantly we run the clock out, and we go back to what we all said we didn't like about how previous boards did it. So it's all perception. I have one question, and my one question is this. When the letter was sent to the county superintendent giving an update on the superintendent search, was that letter shared with members of the board prior to it being submitted?
The letter was shared with our attorney and then shared with
The question I'll ask again. Was the letter that you sent to the county superintendent with an update on the superintendent search shared with the members of the Board of Education
It was shared with the
before,
board as it was required. It was shared with the board.
before or
That's my
after
answer.
it was submitted?
It was shared with the board.
Okay. So did members, so then if that's the case.
And the discussion of
Okay,
what
okay,
was
so I'm
going to
done.
take.
You're using my time now.
The
So
discussion
my
in that
question then
letter-
is, my question then is.
You asked your
I-
question.
Okay,
You said that
no,
was your
no.
only question.
You're taking my time, and I want it reset. My question then is, did every member of this board approve a letter going to the county superintendent that included attacks on me, a spouse of a board member, and other community members? Because I can't quite understand, in seeing the letter, and I just saw it last night, someone pointed out to me on Oprah Machine, that in an update to the county superintendent in state, that this board, all of you, because apparently you all saw it and approved it, would think it would be appropriate to attack members of the community who are parents in the district on an update of a superintendent search that, quite honestly, what do we as a public have anything to do? If you're doing your due diligence, you're interviewing, you feel you have the best candidates, you feel Mrs. Chanley is the best candidate to move forward with as permanent, why is it necessary to let the county and state know about specific members of the community and their concerns? What does that have to do with your search? Why is it necessary to name me and other community members in your update letter to the county? Mr. Gagliardi, you talk about 30 years of experience in representing boards. Is that typical practice? And was my
Finish with
wife
your
made aware
questions.
that you were going to be attacking me in that letter?
There was no attack in that letter. There were facts that were stated.
Should we read the letter?
Are you done with your questions?
Can Mr. Gagliardi answer my question?
When you're done with your
I'm
questions.
done. I'll wait.
Mr. Gagliardi?
Mr. Fabiano, I honestly don't recall the language that, in the letter that you're describing as an attack on you. I do believe your name was mentioned in the letter, but I don't really remember the phraseology. But I think I can still answer your question. So it is our understanding from the county office that on more than one occasion you have gone to the county office to talk about the board's.
Correct, which is my right, just like anybody else's, right.
No, I'm not, just let me finish. I'm not
Okay,
challenging
go
your
ahead.
right to do that. So in the context of your dialogue with the county office, I don't think it is odd that your name was mentioned. In the normal course of things, because in those 30 years, I don't recall any citizens going repeatedly to the county office to talk about the naming of acting administrators. It's not the sort of thing you see. But I say with both respect and affection, I've seen a lot of things in Monroe Township I've never seen before.
And I would probably agree. But you didn't make any mention in your letter for 2 months the amount of time I spent promoting Shari Chanley to the county superintendent, and the meetings that Ms. Skirby helped me set up with the county superintendent, the meetings with the state, and the 60 or so phone calls to the state commissioner's office, which Ms. Skirby in October and November worked with me on to promote Mrs. Chanley. I stood here at a meeting not too long ago and said I was Mrs. Chanley's biggest proponent. And I'm not against Mrs. Chanley from a personal perspective. I've never come up here and attacked her personally. I've asked questions. I respect the things that she's done. I think she's done some great things as acting superintendent. But if you're going to make mention to my opposition, why don't you make mention to the months that I spent fighting to get her in the position with Mrs. Skirby's help?
Would you like me to respond?
Sure.
I obviously don't know anything about those meetings. I don't know anything about what you just talked
Well,
about.
maybe it's time we have a discussion about it, and I'm happy to do it with my lawyer and you. Thank you.
Well, I would like to
Hang on a second.
address-
I get to talk to lawyers all the time, so that's not of particular interest to me. But I will say that the information that I conveyed earlier in setting up the reason why OFAC did that investigation. That's, just hang on one second, sir. So, no names were mentioned specifically when OFAC contacted me, and I got the first call from OFAC simply because the investigation was going to involve your chief school administrator, so they weren't certain who to call. I've dealt with the Department of Education for a long time, so they called me. In the course of that conversation is where I heard that a number of members of the community had contacted the Department of Education in Trenton and the governor's office. So, in addition to your involvement, which you've just acknowledged, there are many citizens, some of the names I know, some I don't, but this community has achieved a sort of infamy as far as the Department of Education is concerned, and